welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be going deep into the world of medical breakthroughs. We've got a really cool podcast called Discussing Medical Breakthroughs in English, and I'm really interested to see what we find in there.
Well, it's pretty interesting that the podcast really stresses how important it is to talk about these breakthroughs in English. It highlights just how important English is for staying in the loop and connecting with people in this global field,
Yeah, because it's not like all scientists and doctors only speak English, right? So what's the big deal about using English?
Well, think of English as like a universal connector for medicine. It's the language of a ton of research and publications and even international collaborations. So, imagine you're a doctor in Japan and you want to learn about the newest cancer treatment that's being developed in the U.S. Or maybe you're a researcher in Brazil who's working with a team in Germany on a new vaccine. English is the bridge that lets them share their knowledge and work together.
So it's not about leaving anyone out. It's more about having this common ground.
Right. Exactly. It's like having a shared language for innovation. And that applies to you, too. Let's say you're reading a complex medical article or even just trying to understand the latest health news. Knowing English becomes like your key to unlock all that information.
Kind of like a decoder ring for a secret society of knowledge, huh? Makes sense. And speaking of decoding, some of the medical terms out there can be pretty scary. Like, I think I'm a curious person, but sometimes I feel like I need a whole medical dictionary just to get what a headline is saying.
I know what you mean. It can be like learning a whole new language. And that's where the podcast we're looking at today comes in handy. They actually go through and break down some of those key vocabulary terms. One that I noticed was precision medicine.
I've heard that term before, but I'm not really sure what it means. Is it like medicine for robots or something?
Not exactly. It's actually a pretty revolutionary approach to treatment. Think of it as medicine that is tailored to each patient. Instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, precision medicine uses things like genetics, lifestyle, and environment to come up with a really personalized treatment plan.
So it's like getting a custom-tailored suit, but for your medical needs.
I know.
That's pretty impressive. What other cool terms do they explain in the podcast?
Well, they also go into immunotherapy, which is a really interesting field, especially with all the progress we've made in cancer treatment.
Okay, immunotherapy. Yeah, I've heard that one before. But how does it actually work? Is it like giving your immune system a pep talk?
I wish it was that easy. Immunotherapy is all about taking advantage of your body's own immune system to fight off diseases. It's basically training your immune system to be better at finding and attacking harmful cells.
So instead of using medicine to attack a disease directly, we're giving our body's natural defenses a serious upgrade.
Exactly. It's like giving your immune system a blueprint to build a targeted defense system. And it's been super effective in treating certain cancers where traditional treatments weren't as successful.
Wow, that's incredible. Speaking of breakthroughs in action, they talk about mRNA vaccines in the podcast. That seems like a totally groundbreaking development, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Developing those mRNA vaccines, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, was really revolutionary. What's really cool is they work differently than how vaccines used to. Instead of injecting you with a weakened virus, mRNA vaccines give your cells instructions, teaching them how to make proteins that trigger an immune response.
So instead of giving the body a weakened enemy to practice on, we're giving it the instructions to build its own weapons, huh? That's amazing.
Exactly. It's like giving your cells the blueprint to build their own defenses. And what's really remarkable is how fast these vaccines were developed and given out to people. It was a huge scientific effort, unlike anything we've seen before, and it showed us how powerful collaboration and innovation can be.
It definitely felt like science was working in overdrive. It was a big turning point.
It really was.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings us to another important thing about medical breakthroughs that the podcast talks about: ethical considerations. Especially as these advancements become more complex and powerful.
You're right. It's like with any powerful tool, we need to think about how to use it responsibly.
Exactly. And the podcast brings up some really interesting questions, especially when it comes to gene editing. It's a really powerful technology that could potentially treat or even cure genetic diseases. But it also makes us wonder, where do we draw the line? How do we make sure it's used responsibly? Should we even be editing the genes of future generations? What if there are unintended consequences? We can't just ignore these questions.
It's like we're entering a whole new world of medicine. And with any new territory, we need to make sure we're exploring it ethically and responsibly.
Exactly. And the podcast encourages us to think critically about these implications, not just from a scientific point of view, but from a human one, too.
It's a good reminder that progress isn't just about what we can do, but what we should do. And that's a conversation we need to have.
Absolutely. Especially as we explore these groundbreaking technologies more and more.
Well, we've already talked about so much. We've covered the importance of English as a universal connector in medicine, explored concepts like precision medicine and immunotherapy, and even touched upon those ethical considerations surrounding these advancements.
It's pretty clear that the world of medical breakthroughs is full of potential and responsibility, and there's so much more to uncover as we continue our deep dive. What's standing out to you so far? What's piqued your interest the most?
Honestly, gene editing really fascinates me. It's such a powerful tool with the potential to change the very code of life. It feels like we're on the edge of a whole new era in medicine. But, before we get too carried away, I'm also really curious to hear more about those ethical considerations. It's one thing to be able to change our genes, but it's a whole other thing to know when and how to use that power responsibly.
I totally agree. And that's exactly what we'll be going into next time. We'll be exploring the possibilities of gene therapy, stem cell research, and even the role of AI in healthcare.
Oh, this is getting exciting. I can't wait to keep going.
So you're really into gene editing, huh? Well, good news. We're about to dive into the world of gene therapy, which is basically using gene editing to treat or even prevent diseases. It's like having the power to rewrite the code of life.
I know we talked about it before, but the whole idea just blows my mind. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But how does it actually work? Do scientists really go in there and cut and paste DNA?
That's a pretty good way to think about it. One of the coolest tools in gene editing is this thing called CRISPR-Cas9. It's like a tiny microscopic scalpel that lets scientists target and change specific genes with incredible precision.
Wow, a molecular scalpel. So does this mean we could cure inherited diseases that we thought were incurable before?
The potential is huge. Think about conditions like cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, even some cancers that have a genetic component. Gene therapy could totally change the game for people with these diseases.
That's incredible. But I'm sure there are challenges and risks too, right? I mean, we're talking about messing with the very building blocks of life.
You're right to be cautious. It's still a pretty new field, and we're learning more about it all the time. One thing that worries people is off-target effects, which is when the gene editing tool accidentally changes the wrong genes, and then there are long-term safety things that we're still looking into.
It sounds like we need to be super careful and make sure we're not causing more problems while we're trying to fix things.
Exactly. It's a really powerful tool, and we need to be thoughtful and responsible about how we use it. And that brings us back to those ethical questions we were talking about earlier.
Right, because gene editing isn't just about the science. It's about what it means for people and for society as a whole.
Absolutely. And there's this one area that brings up some really complex ethical questions: germline editing. This is where you modify the genes in sperm or egg cells, which means any changes you make would get passed down to future generations.
Ooh, that's a big deal. We're not just talking about treating one person. We're talking about potentially changing the whole human gene pool.
It's a pretty heavy concept, and it's caused a lot of debate among scientists and even the general public. It brings up questions about unintended consequences for future generations and the possibility of people misusing it.
It's like opening Pandora's box. We got to be super careful about what we let out. So are there any rules or guidelines to make sure all this is being done responsibly?
It's definitely an area that's constantly changing, and different countries have different ways of handling it. But more and more people agree that we need clear ethical guidelines and regulations to control how gene editing technology is used.
It definitely feels like we're in uncharted territory here, and we need a good map and compass to make sure we're exploring it the right way.
I agree. It's a super powerful technology with the potential to do so much good, but we need to make sure we're using it wisely. While gene therapy is amazing, the podcast also talked about another area with a ton of potential: stem cell research. Have you ever thought much about that?
Stem cell research. I kind of remember learning about it way back in school, but it's all a little fuzzy now. Doesn't it have something to do with cells that can change into other types of cells?
That's the basic idea. Stem cells are like those blank canvases you get at an art store. They can become any type of cell in the body, which makes them incredibly valuable for research and for developing new treatments.
So theoretically, you could use stem cells to repair damaged tissues, maybe even grow entire new organs. That almost sounds too good to be true.
It's a field with a ton of promise. Scientists are looking at ways to use stem cells to treat all sorts of diseases, from things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's to spinal cord injuries and heart disease.
It sounds like stem cell research could completely revolutionize how we treat diseases and injuries. Are there different types of stem cells, by the way?
Yeah, there are actually a few. Embryonic stem cells, which come from embryos, have the ability to turn into any cell in the body. But adult stem cells, which are found in different tissues, can only turn into a limited number of cell types, but they're still super useful for treating certain conditions.
I bet there are some ethical issues with stem cell research, especially when we're talking about embryonic stem cells.
You're definitely right about that. The whole question of where embryonic stem cells come from is something people are still debating. Some think it's wrong to use embryos for research, while others believe the benefits are worth it, especially if those embryos would be discarded anyway.
It's a tough issue with no easy answers. It seems like we're always trying to find the balance between scientific progress and these really important ethical questions.
Exactly. And these discussions are crucial as we continue to push the boundaries of medicine. Listening to that podcast really made me realize just how much is happening in the world of medical breakthroughs. It's almost overwhelming.
I know, right? It feels like we're on the verge of a golden age of medicine, but with so much going on, it's hard to know where to focus.
Well, there's one more thing I think you'll find fascinating: the rise of artificial intelligence in healthcare.
AI in healthcare. Wow, that sounds futuristic. I can picture robots helping surgeons or maybe AI-powered tools that help doctors diagnose diseases. But what else is happening in that area?
Those are some really exciting possibilities, and people are already working on them. But AI is also being used in ways that are less obvious but just as important. For example, AI algorithms can look at huge amounts of medical data and find patterns and trends that human doctors might miss.
So AI could help us personalize treatments, predict disease outbreaks, maybe even find new drug targets. It feels like we're only just beginning to understand what AI can do for healthcare.
Exactly. And as AI technology keeps getting better, it's going to play an even bigger role in healthcare. But of course, we have to think about the ethical side of things too.
Like what? I'm guessing data privacy is a big concern.
Absolutely. Since AI relies on tons of patient data, we need to make sure that information is protected and used the right way. There are also worries about bias in algorithms and the possibility that AI could make existing inequalities in healthcare worse.
So we need to be just as careful with AI in healthcare as we are with gene editing and stem cell research. We can't just assume that technology will magically solve all our problems.
I couldn't agree more. It's really important to look at these advancements critically and make sure that technology is serving humanity, not the other way around.
This deep dive has been a whirlwind. We've gone from gene editing to stem cell research to artificial intelligence, and it feels like we've only scratched the surface of what's happening in medical breakthroughs.
It's an amazing time to be alive and to see these advancements happening, but as we've talked about, it's not just about the science. It's about understanding the consequences and making sure we use these powerful tools the right way.
It's a good reminder that medical breakthroughs aren't just about living longer. They're about living better and solving the problems that affect our health and well-being.
Well said. And it's important to remember that while these breakthroughs give us a lot of hope, they're not instant cures. There's still so much work to be done. Research, development, making sure everyone can access these advancements, and making sure they're distributed fairly.
It sounds like we all need to step up. It's not enough to just sit back and be impressed by these breakthroughs. We have to be part of the conversation, ask tough questions, and make sure these powerful tools are used ethically and responsibly.
Exactly. The future of healthcare is being shaped right now, and it's up to all of us to stay informed and be involved in this incredible journey.
That's a powerful thought to take away from this discussion. So what's next on our deep dive list? What other areas of medical breakthroughs should we be keeping an eye on?
It's amazing to think about how much medicine is changing. We've talked about these huge advancements like gene editing and AI, but I'm also kind of curious about the smaller, everyday innovations that are quietly making people's lives better.
That's a really good point. It's easy to get caught up in those headlines about miracle cures, but sometimes it's the less flashy stuff that really makes a difference in people's lives.
Exactly. Like, I was reading about new ways to deliver medicine that make taking it easier and more efficient. That might not sound as cool as gene therapy, but for someone dealing with a chronic illness, that could be a total game changer. For sure. Think about someone with diabetes who can control their insulin with a painless patch that lasts a long time instead of having to take shots every day. Or someone with rheumatoid arthritis who can take a medicine that goes straight to the joints that hurt so they don't have as many side effects. These things may not be front page news, but they're making a huge difference for a lot of people.
And we can't forget about things like preventative medicine and public health initiatives. Sometimes the best healthcare solutions aren't high-tech treatments. They're things like clean water, vaccines, and teaching people how to live healthy lives.
Absolutely. Public health measures often have a much bigger impact on the overall health of the population than any single medical treatment. Think about how we wiped out smallpox, or how much polio has decreased thanks to vaccines. Those are incredible achievements that show just how powerful public health interventions can be.
It's a good reminder that being healthy isn't just about treating diseases. It's also about preventing them in the first place. And that often means dealing with social and environmental issues that affect our well-being.
You're right on the money there. Healthcare isn't just about what happens in hospitals and doctors' offices. It's also about creating supportive communities, encouraging healthy habits, and addressing systemic inequalities that can impact health outcomes.
This deep dive has really changed how I think about the medical field. It's not just about scientific discoveries. It's about ethics, access, collaboration, and having a whole person understanding of what it means to be healthy.
You couldn't have said it better myself. It's a field that constantly pushes us to think critically, to come up with creative solutions, and to approach healthcare with both scientific rigor and human compassion.
So as we wrap up this exploration of medical breakthroughs, what's the main takeaway you hope people listening will think about?
Well, I hope they come away feeling optimistic, but also informed. We're living in a time of incredible medical progress, and the future holds even more potential. But with that potential comes responsibility. We need to make sure these breakthroughs are used ethically, that everyone has access to them, and that they benefit all of humanity.
That's a powerful message to remember. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into medical breakthroughs. It's been quite a journey.
The pleasure was all mine. Learned so much from these conversations with you.
And all our listeners out there, we'd love to hear what you think. What medical breakthroughs really caught your eye? What are you hoping for or worried about when it comes to the future of healthcare? Share your thoughts and be part of the conversation.